my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white. Yeah, it's black and white. We're just black and white. It's my black and white. It's my black and white scarf.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Town End Podcast. It's season 5, episode 27. Well, we're coming at you with another goal spree, this time a 6-1 victory to Dundalk over their Midlands rivals Athlone this time. Well, it's not too often we see this many goals banging in Oriel Park after consecutive games. And to go through this game tonight, we're joined by James Rogers. James, how are you?
Oh, good, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Not at all, not at all. James, another emphatic victory at Oriel Park. We could get used to these.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose we were not that long ago bemoaning a lack of goals, and then all of a sudden, we've had 10 in the space of, a long weekend, for want of a better term. But it's certainly moving in the right direction, and we can only be happy with what we've seen tonight, I presume.
Yeah, I suppose we'll go right the way back to the start on this one, James. Once again, Kieran kind of rang in the changes. We're probably not that surprised to see Enda Minogue back in goals again. Any other changes surprise you?
No, I think he probably mixed things up last Monday, obviously with 6 changes that day, and I suppose the team that got the job done against UCD, I probably would have expected largely that to go that way, and maybe after his performance, Owen Kenny was a bit undroppable, and I think that proved a good move. So he was probably the only real one from maybe Monday that kind of put their hand up enough to say I deserve a start tonight, and it proved warranted. But yeah, I think it was probably what we expected. But again, and we've seen it throughout today, we're suddenly looking at our bench, and there's real options here. Again, I know Gally mentions it every week, that the triple sub, and he did it again tonight. But I mean, when you look at the strength that they're able to bring on, the likes of Shane Tracy not even used tonight as well. So amongst others, but there's real options and competition in the squad now all of a sudden.
Yeah, any surprise? I suppose you bet all these players in. You don't know how these things are going to work out, but to go behind so early, you could be fooled by looking at Athlone and saying, well, they're bottom of the table, and but there is a couple of decent players in that squad as well, and they seem to kind of catch us out real earlier on.
Yeah, to be fair, they had a go, and they're not a bad side. They've had their upheavals. I think Cole Amor at the back, for butchered his pronunciation there, but I think he was the only survivor from the opening night match between the sides and Oriel on their side in terms of the starting 11. We had 8 of the same starting 11, so it shows that there's a bit more continuity of those. Leo Gax is injured, Dean Ebbe was on the bench, and obviously Sean Keogh's gone to Brighton, so we've had much more sort of solidity and stuff. But there is some players there. I know even we drew at them in Athlone last time out, and Gideon Tete caused us problems. And again, he was the man. I know Oyenega scored it, but it was Tete's run that would ultimately cause the problems. But those two driving at you with a bit of pace and power are going to cause problems. They're a big side as well. So I think we saw from a couple of set pieces they were dangerous, but it was nervy at times. I don't think the pitch helps the defence at times, the way the ball bounces and bobbles and all that. But on the whole, it was a blow to fall behind so early, but I don't think anyone was really panicking. But then you respond sort of within around 3 minutes, and that majorly settles the nerves. I think the longer that sort of goes on, it gets more worrisome, particularly with Cove winning in the Carlisle grounds fairly early as well. But they responded fairly well, and I think it could have been more, but I think if you had offered Kieran Kilduff 2-1 at half time, the minute they went a goal down, I'm sure he would have bitten the hand of you.
Yeah, exactly. But to bounce back from I suppose the early concession of that goal has to be really pleasing. it's something we've seen this Kenny Arubi kind of link up before. Arubi gets in ahead and gets us back level. How important did you feel it was that, to get back in so quickly, back level again?
Huge, because like I say, no matter who it is, the longer you give a team a chance to sit in and sort of protect a lead, every passing minute makes it that bit easier for them. But they barely had time to draw breath, and all of a sudden it was 1-1, and back to the sort of drawing board for them a little bit. They had to show a little bit of adventure. It wasn't some great goals scored tonight. It wasn't the prettiest, and particularly Arubi, he scored better goals this season, but it was quite functional. Like, we've bemoaned at times set piece delivery, but like Owen gets up really well to meet the corner, and he's just what you want your number 9 doing, right place, right time, swiveling and putting it away. And it was a great settler for us, because like we haven't gone behind in too many matches this season, particularly at home, and to respond in the manner we did, it kind of showed why we're top of the table.
Yeah, I definitely of late. It was a bit of a landslide last week when we were choosing our Monday night, should I say, when we were choosing our man in the match with Owen Kenny. Owen has really hit a purple patch of late. Even earlier and throughout the season, you probably say Owen has been in the right place, but just lacked a finish or something to it. But you can see a swagger about his game, and he picks up another. We'll start with the second goal first on this, with the first and Dundalk second on this.
Yeah, like, it's amazing the confidence he's got. Like, the thing about Owen Kenny, and you sometimes have to forget, because he's just been around for so long. He's only 19. Like, he's not 20 till the end of the year. I think it's something like New Year's Eve, or maybe the day before New Year's Eve or something. So like, he's still only maturing as a kid and as a man and as a footballer. And look, when you bring in players, like he effectively lost his place to Declan McDade not that long ago. He didn't start the UCD game 7 days ago, but that's what you want from players. You want players sort of, fighting for their spot. And look, no one has sort of doubted Owen's sort of work rate and endeavour and desire and heart and all that, but it's sometimes just been the finishing touch that's missing, as you say. Like, I think early in the season I said this guy should be in double figures right now, and he, maybe had 1 goal in 10 matches or something like that. But his contribution again, like, he had 3 goal involvements on Monday night, and he 3 goal involvements again tonight. And what more could you want? It's the first, like, as a little landmark for himself. I'm sure he was gutted he didn't remain on the pitch to try and go for the hat-trick, but like, it's the first time he scored 2 in a game, so that in itself is a development. And obviously he did get the assist for Ruby's equalizer as well. So it's what you want. You want to see your players stepping up. You want to see them developing, and he just seems to be playing with a real freedom and confidence right now, because he's always had it in the locker, but I think in recent weeks he's just shown a desire to, have a go at people and get past them. And I think his second tonight was kind of, or sort of the dog second tonight was like it was Berbatov-esque nearly, with the one at the end line, with like a quick throw by Declan McDade, and just driving at people. And a few Athlone defenders having nightmares about him tonight. But yeah, like, it's brilliant to see, because like, since the new signings have come in, and I know we're probably going to talk about the likes of Auden, etc. as this goes on, but we had the Wexford game not that long ago, and Arubi pops up with a double, kind of saying, I'm the main man here. And now it's Owen, kind of a reminder that, because Declan McDade effectively came in and was the right winger for a couple of weeks there. But I mean, if you're looking ahead to treaty now, can you see anyone else starting right wing other than Owen Kenny? Probably not. But like I say, everyone's sort of suddenly on their toes, because as much as another goal for Ruby tonight, Brohan Vaughan does come on and gets a brace. So, you had Dean Ebbe getting 2 on Monday night as well. So, like, there's proper competition now. We were probably giving out about our strikers not scoring a few weeks ago, and now they're all chipping in, So yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Both Kenny and McDade are involved in the penalty incident just before halftime as well. Once again, over at the dead ball line, seems to roll out. The defender kind of gets in between Kenny and the ball. It swarms out. McDade steps in then, I suppose, and draws the foul. Pretty straightforward from what I've seen.
Yeah, that guy Huladov, I think he's Ukrainian. He was having an absolute shocker, and I turned around to David Risman beside me at halftime when Dylan Hand came on. I said, "That's no harm." I was gutted from a dog perspective. He was just. There was actually one. I think we probably could have had a penalty as well, where it traveled maybe 30 yards, and just it's probably. On another night, if that finishes a draw or something, you're probably going mad about that. It probably doesn't matter a whole pile now, but he was just having an absolute nightmare of a night, and it was a stupid decision. Unfortunately, from a Dundalk perspective, we didn't take advantage of it, but it's almost forgotten about now, and I'm sure the only one who's mad about it is Daryl. It's his birthday on Sunday, and he doesn't get to mark it with a goal, but
he seemed to do everything just very similar to his UCD strike. It seemed to be in that same area again. Maybe just the keeper done the homework on it. Maybe.
Yeah, the funny thing with Daryl and look, Daryl's played an awful lot of games in his career. I think over 500 or something. I'm pretty sure Daryl's never taken a penalty in normal time of a match prior to last week, and then he gets two in a week. So I know he's your captain. I know he's your most experienced player, and we all know he can strike a ball or whatever. I'd like to see.
Well, Ruby was floating, wasn't he? Yeah, he had initially walked over beside him.
And listen, it's not that Ruby has massive experience of taking penalties either, I admit. But and look, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But Daryl, for all his qualities over, he has never at any of his clubs taken penalties. Really, he obviously has in shootouts at times and stuff like that. But he was never a regular penalty taker anywhere in his career. And I just think, look, again, hindsight's wonderful, but Ruby has just scored. He's in a bit of a rich vein of form. Do you give it to them? But look, again, the only such thing as a bad penalty is the one that doesn't go in. Hindsight will say it was a nice height for the keeper, but if the keeper goes the other way, you're saying, oh, great penalty. So it's one of those minor things, and thankfully didn't come back to bite us in the backside or anything. But it was nervy a bit around that, because I did feel even sort of second half, I said, there's definitely another goal in this. And it's just a case of where that goes. Is it Dundalk, or do we kick on? I thought at 3-1, there was no way back for Athlone, but they were dangerous at times too, in certain moments as well, to be fair to them. So you kind of did need that comfort of the third goal just to sort of ensure that it was going to be job done.
I have to admit, even myself coming in at halftime, having missed a penalty, it was one of them. I was hopeful it wasn't going to be something that will come back to bite us, because what we've seen too often this year, probably not at the very start, definitely kind of in the middle of the season, was just not putting teams to bed. It seemed to be a bugbear of a lot of fans, that we've just always left the door just slightly ajar, that if something happened, and sometimes it's been confusion from long throws or something, and all of a sudden we've allowed other teams to come in and maybe steal a point or something. So like you say, to go out into the second half and then Kenny gets that third goal, you could nearly get a sense of relief around Oriel Park.
Yeah, because it has been like that. And again, I spoke to Kieran afterwards, and he admitted himself, even after the third goal, it got a little sloppy for a period there. And I remember just saying, up in the stand, I was like, even if we don't add another, just don't concede another. Don't give them a sniff, because even going back to Monday night, and I know you look at it and say 4-1, it was comfortable. There was a period at 3-1 where, they hit the post, they had a couple of chances, and they said, this could be really nervy. Declan McDade scores, obviously, and it's not. But, I think that would probably be the most pleasing aspect for Kieran Kilduff when he reflects on it tonight. Because, look, it wasn't a perfect performance on the whole, don't get me wrong, but the fact that we kind of saw that out, because it looked like you know, maybe a bit of, I don't want to use the word complacency, but that sort of, you know, it can only be a simple mistake and allows them in. And if for a brief period, it looked like it might happen again, but then we just kicked on, found another level, and in the end, really put them to the sword. And yeah, it's the biggest win of the season, you know, and I think we've been tracking that for maybe a long time, and finally it's taken 27 matches or something, but we got it in the end.
Yeah, maybe it's the curse of Galley, because how long has he been saying this year, we're going to give someone a hiding, and you know, he said it could feel it happening. Finally, it's happened in the last 2 games, and the lad's nowhere to be seen. But look,
fair enough.
Maybe
keep him away from Oreo. So
exactly. So 3-1, he said we probably assert a little bit more control over the match then, which allows Kieran to make a couple of subs. Once again, like you say, the triple sub is used again. Did you feel that was more preserving, and maybe some players like Arubi and Horgan, to make sure they're fit for? I know we've a bit of a gap now with the FAI Cup next weekend, but that gives it kind of, you know, minutes in the legs maybe for other lads, the likes of Rowan Vaughan, Wardy back in again, and these, and you know, players we've seen probably didn't expect to see as much of Wardy this season as we have. So did you feel it was more precautionary, or did you think it was just a change of tack and kind of make sure there's enough minutes in everyone's legs?
I think a little bit of both. Look, there is players like Daryl Horgan start every game, and he's not a spring chicken anymore. I'm not saying he's past it, but you know, you have to manage minutes as well. Like, as I'm sure he did come out off later on, but like Owen Kenny, I'm sure would have loved to stay on and try for his hat trick and whatever. But you know, you have to, as a coach, you can't maybe let the heart rule the head at times. You have to sort of give lads a rest, and equally there's lads there who, you know, he didn't decide the game, but there's going to be a lot of talk about Rowan Vaughan tonight for obvious reasons. But like, he's now buzzing going into treaty. You know, if you don't put him on tonight, and even Dean Ebbe, who didn't get a goal, like, you might need them. Like I said to David Rispin again, I'm doing a bit of co-commentary on LMFM, like that, you know, Kieran had said on Monday he thought the two could be a good foil for each other. And, you know, Arubi's obviously, I think, rightfully got the number 9 jersey right now. But, you know, if you're not making a breakthrough in a game, which will inevitably happen at some point, you may need that plan B. And, you know, because there is no game next week, you need to give them the minutes, but also they're still building up understanding together and the confidence. Like, I'm sure Rowan Vaughan now is probably knocking a manager's door tomorrow and saying, I want to play against Treaty, and you can't blame him to some extent. And like, they're good headaches for a manager to have. But also, like, from a, you know, look at the opposition, they probably know that it's game done and dusted, or getting tired or whatever in the game, and all of a sudden you have these absolute like units running at you at pace. Like, it's horrible. Like, you know, it was great to see Norman Garbett back tonight, obviously, as well. I think he got more kicks than some players got at Athlone players got at a ball tonight. So, you know, it's it was really good, you know, and it's that sort of dream scenario for a manager where you're able to sort of bring off your players to and put on lads who are, you know, not alone just filling in, but they're really putting their hand up to get involved. Like, you know, like, it'll massively go under the radar. But again, another really nice assist for Andy Paraschiff tonight, for example. So, you know, there's a lot of players that can come away tonight and say, you know, that I put my hand up here, and that's what you want for it. We're into literally the final 9 matches now. There's 3/4 of the way gone. This is the all-important quarter, and all of a sudden, it just feels like it's pouring at the right time. Now, albeit two poor sides, and you have to preface that, like, there will be tougher challenges ahead, but confidence is amazing, like, because, you know, we're talking about Owen Kenny earlier, like that, you know, that just confidence of putting the head down and running past the player and being able to beat a player. You know, he could be marked by Andy Robertson tomorrow or something, and he'll still feel that confidence, because you know, when your tail's up and all that, it's you feel unbeatable, and that's what they're taking down the treaty now. And look, I'm sure you'll ask me about that game in more detail, but in a way, with no game next week, it's the perfect, if you could pick a fixture.
Yeah.
Treaty, the team you haven't beaten yet, stay hungry for it, lads.
2 weeks of preparation, like you say, ahead of that. You say so we ring in the changes. Absolutely. See, every tackle that went in on Norman Garbutt, I think everyone had a gasp, hoping he was just going to get up and because he's just one of the likable guys that you want to see him get these minutes in, and it's a real hard luck story for him. And the fact that he came back again, you're kind of thinking, all right, kick on and have a great one. Another bad injury, so just to see him come off the pitch with everyone else for a change was really nice to see.
Yeah, it's listen, I think, was it Shamrock Rovers last year? He made his debut. Yeah. He's looked an incredible threat whenever he's been on the pitch. He just can't get on the pitch. He does look like he has that something maybe different than the wingers we have. Just, it's direct, it's pace, it's power to an extent. And he will win you frees, he'll win you penalties. He just needs that rub of the green, and on a pure human level, like, he sacrificed so much to be here. Like, he's come over from New Zealand. I'm sure he could play football over there if he wanted to, but he's sort of fallen in love with Dundalk to a certain extent. He's living with a family locally. He's, by all accounts, very popular among his teammates, and it's hard because he's become a bit of the forgotten man, because that's only his third appearance of the season tonight. He's still, despite being at the club over a year, yet to start a game for Dundalk. So it's just really, really good for him, I think, just to be able to get on the pitch and, like, all of a sudden he's 2 assists tonight. Not maybe direct in the way a winger would like, but a stat is a stat, and again, he's coming away and say, I have 2 assists for the season. I hope he's an assist bonus or something, because it'll be a nice little booster for his confidence. But yeah, an amazing moment for him just to get back on the pitch. And there was so many little things like that tonight where you're just happy for so many people that it's come off. But again, it's another frightening option to have heading into the closing weeks of the season if you've that sort of pace. It was a hamstring problem, obviously, that he had, and I was chatting to someone about him a few weeks ago when as he was stepping up his comeback, and the one fear you have with that sort of injury, that you've lost that little bit of explosiveness, for want of a better term. And they said no, he definitely hasn't. And if ever there was proof of that, I think it was tonight, where if he's missed, like, that's him not match fit. So let's see him in another few weeks, where sadly there's not many games left. But they're the most important games as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And it seemed, James, for the last 3 games, we're talking about Roman Vaughan having some sort of an impact. We've seen his amazing impact on his first appearance as a summon, picking up a yellow card in a matter of seconds. We've seen a fairly impressive leading of the line in his first start. Just couldn't cap that with a goal, but tonight he gets his double.
Yeah, and well deserved. He when he came on the first night, he reminded me a bit like a dog chasing a car. He just wouldn't give up on it. And like, it must be horrible for a defender or goalkeeper or whatever, but he's that sort of rare breed. Like, there's a lot of talk about Benjamin Sesko at the moment and stuff like that, and it's a different level, obviously, but he is that sort of big, like an absolute unit, like big, like he can do all aspects of the game. Like, probably a decade ago, we were looking at the likes of McMillan and Kilduff, and one had maybe the physicality, the other had the bit of speed or whatever. This guy is both combined, and look, he'll play tougher opposition than he's played in the last few weeks, but as a start and as potential and as something different than what we have, he's certainly that. And look, he'll, at some point, and I don't want to get too far ahead because there's work to be done, etc. But at some point, you do need to start looking and say, who could who could step up for next season if we're assembling a squad for a Premier Division. And I know you still have to put the ball in the net, and that remains to be seen. Like, can he do that at a higher level? But just his physique, his pace, he has all the attributes to do it at a Premier Division level. And I know it's only a loan, whether we can keep him or not remains to be seen. But he's an exciting one to watch, and in terms of for the final series of games of the season, like you nearly go up to Oriel just to see what he'll do, apart from everyone else, so it takes a lot to sort of take the shine off of Keith Ward's 40-yard free kick, but he probably did that tonight, so all credit to him.
Yeah, like Wardy won't like being kind of getting it taken off the pedestal with one of these bangers. But like, we've seen this from Wardy before, of course. Likes to hit these free kicks from a distance on LOI TV. I know Tom nearly had the commentator's curse of saying, there's no way he'll hit another one from here, is there? Oh, yes, there is. It's Wardy.
He's one of them. He obviously got the winner recently against Wexford. And I remember chatting to Kieran Kilduff afterwards, and he said he'd won a few minutes after that. I think he said he put it in the petrol station or something. He's right, like, yeah. What are you doing that? But like, Wardy is that sort of character where if there's a 1% chance it might go in, he's taking it on. And you know what? He bought the lotto slip and it came up trumps, and what a goal, like, and it kind of it capped what was a really nice sort of, I know it wasn't the last goal, but it was a really nice end to the game where there was a bit of swagger there at the end. And keeper will have a few nightmares about it, no doubt. But like, I mean, if there's any player in the league, and I count both divisions as having a go from there, it's Keith Ward, and it's part of his mercurial genius. Like, and at times, look, it's a bit like a golfer. At times he'll scuff one as well, and he'll roll about 2 yards or something. But and there's other times he'll put it in the next parish. It'll be in Kennedy's beer garden or something. But when he connects, he has all the technique in the world. And it's, again, it was one of those, probably outshone a little in the end somewhat, but it was worth the admission alone. On a night there was no goals in the Premier Division tonight, obviously. So anyone from Derry to Waterford to Drogheda or Cork, I think, just check out the Dundalk highlights and you'll be entertained.
As it ticked over, we seem to really, put our boot to the neck on Athlone, and like you said, it's a lovely link up with Garbutt and with Rowan Vaughan for the sixth goal. Did you feel it was a 6-1 victory? There was shades in that first half. Well, I'm just thinking back to Enderman pulled off, some good saves, and they did hit the outside of the post. Did that game ever feel like a 6-1 victory to you?
It probably flattered us a little bit, but like, when you factor in a missed penalty, Vinnie Leonard hit the post as well. There was a few other chances like that. I think we were full value for the victory. There's been probably times this season where you've played better on the whole and maybe not had that. But on a night where one eye on Cove and Bray, and like, that result was probably sewn up fairly early. Cove got a 2-goal lead fairly early on, and probably never going to, give that up. You nearly would have preferred both teams to drop points there. I would have, like, if you give me a choice, take a draw and put both of them out of the equation. It's probably realistically back to a 2-horse race now. Very hard to see Bray making up the ground on both, I'd imagine. But what could be crucial is, like, so we've now, like, the 6-1, the beauty of that is there's now a 5-goal difference in the goal difference, and that could be crucial because
absolutely,
like, if it is going into the melting pot on the final day, going down there, those 5 goals could be massive come the end. You'd like to hope not. I'd personally love to be going down the Cove already with the title in the bag and give them a bit of ribbon or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
But, you just don't know. But as I say, the goals could be really vital, and that's the main thing I took from it. That, with all our attributes, you look at the strength of our bench, as I mentioned tonight, with the pace we're bringing on now. All of a sudden, we should be tagging on goals late in games. It's what Stephen Kenny's teams did over the years to such great effect. Wore teams down and then really pulverized them, and that's what good teams do. You even seen it with Carabag there very recently in Shelburne, where you're thinking, oh, 1-0's not that bad a result, and then bang bang, it's 3-0 tie over. That's just what good teams do, and particularly against, with all due respect, inferior opposition. And if we're finally getting to the point of being able to do that, happy days. I would have liked it if it was sooner in the season, but look, we're not in a bad position either. So yeah, it's nice to see that ruthlessness. And look, if there had been another 10 minutes there tonight, I'm sure we would have scored more, because we just hit our flow, and I think they were a bit demoralised, and that's what you want to see, teams coming to Oriel Park and leaving dejected.
Yeah, I'll get to a couple of people's questions here. James, people are just asking about the forward line at the moment. Arubi leading it at the moment, but can you see that changing? Do you think with this many of our forward players probably unformed, will it be something that Kieran and Ken might look at it, pending on opposition or pending on maybe how pitches play or whatever, that we might see a rotation to this forward line? Or do you feel he has a very definite starting 3, 4? It depends on where you're playing that number 10, I suppose.
Yeah, like, he's obviously played Rohan and Dean together now twice. Like, does he chance, Vaughan and Arubi together potentially? I don't know. Like, it's funny. So Declan McDaid didn't do a lot wrong tonight, no more than anyone, and his place is probably under threat just purely because of the impact of other people, and that's such a good problem to have. I don't know if he'll massively tear up the copybook for Treaty, but he can. There's if like, say we're chasing a game, do you go Ebby, Ruby, and Vaughan?
Yeah.
I like, it's just a nice option to have, that you've 3 sort of proven goal scorers on there who've all now been on target in the last sort of week or so, particularly with Kenny coming behind them and stuff like that. So you can mix it up. Like, we know Darryl can play more centrally if you want to. I think Ruby originally played wide for us as well.
Yeah.
So you have a few different options, and it's a nice bit of mix. And obviously, look, with Norman Garbutt back now as well, there's another wide option as well. So, like, he's spoiled for choice. Like, I honestly, maybe his biggest headache over the closing weeks is how do you keep everyone happy to some extent as well, because I'm sure everyone's going to want to play. But I mean, that's a problem any manager would take, I'm sure. But yeah, it's nice to have those options, and you could be right. Maybe it'll be different strokes for different folks, and maybe, I don't want to analyze it, but if you have a slow centre half, for example, I don't want to go into any particular teams, but maybe he sees an option of, right, we'll play the likes of Rohan Vaughan up against him. Now, not that Ruby's no slouch either, to be fair, but it's a good problem to have where they're all scoring goals. And I think the biggest pleasing aspect for him has been the reaction. All of a sudden you have a Ruby score and Dean Ebbe score, and Owen Kenny's definitely stepped up, and it's because of that competition it's brought in. And I think we will have a new defender in as well, just if that can have a similar effect at the back.
That was just leading me on to that next question there, James. Just like, so going forward, we look fine. From Tony Martin, just saying, but if Mayo or Vinny get a knock, we're in trouble with McHale's injury. He's possibly out for a while. So you reckon that's still an area where the lads would like to strengthen? And I'm presuming this has to be someone not attached to a club then. Yeah,
so I spoke to Kieran about that on Monday. He said, look, they're looking to bring someone in. There's just a bit of red tape there in terms of getting, he is a free agent, but getting the paperwork from his old club. Asked him for an update on that tonight. He's still hopeful of getting it done now. He said it may be the week leading into treaty as opposed to next week where we're free, but he's still hopeful it'll happen. That's another body. I believe it's an experienced person. So can play left-sided, which J.R. Wilson's done fine there, and obviously Shane Tracy in recent weeks has done fine there. But you ideally want a specialist. And to be fair to Mayoa, and it was his birthday tonight or today.
At least he got a card for it.
A veteran at 22, but he was sort of gone for a few weeks, and it sort of, it's perturbed the club to a certain extent, where I think he's showing up as injured, but he feels fine, and they've sort of trusted him, and he's got through a week of matches now effectively.
Sounds like the break's at the right time for him.
Yeah, so even little things like that, just give it a wee bit of a rest. But he's done well, to be fair, even just to get through the tree. I know he came off a bit early, I think last Monday against Longford, but we are probably a little light there, just with obviously Sean Keogh gone, McHale injured.
Luke Mulligan out at the moment, is he?
I think Luke Mulligan's carrying something as well. Yeah, so I think it's actually an illness with him. So again, you'd imagine the fortnight break before treaty, he's probably back in contention as well. But it would be nice to have sort of another experienced option in there, and by the sounds of it, we will. But it's probably going to be the week leading into treaty as opposed to next week where we're off.
Just before we get to our man of the match picks ourselves, there's a couple of notes just on A. Dervin as well. Seems to put in these performances week after week. Like we seen a player that went on that unfortunate run at the end of last year in the Premier Division. He seems to be like a completely different player now, brimming with confidence and kind of dragging a lot of the standards, it seems, on the pitch every time up to a higher level that he wants everyone else to play to.
Yeah, he's been incredible this year. It's probably a bit early for it yet, but I think if you're talking player of the year, he's certainly in the shake-up. If you could bottle his spirit and enthusiasm, he fits the fiery redhead mold. But I think he's the heartbeat of the team, and look, a nice week for him. I would have been interested to see what he would have done had the one against Longford crept in rather than hit the post. Whether he went full Adebayor or not, but I'm sure a Longford man takes a lot of joy of beating Athlone. So a nice one for him. But he's been incredible, and again, it's probably another area that, touch wood, he hasn't missed too many matches. I think he missed maybe one or two, maybe. With a slight injury, but you wouldn't like to lose him for any length of time either, because you don't have, by all counts, you look at the bench tonight, Shane Tracy's done well whenever he's played. Keith Ward's obviously chipped in particular weeks with moments of magic, but I don't think anyone has that real ball-winning ability. And you look at almost even the Premier Division, outside of maybe Jamie Lennon at Pats or someone like that, there's probably... there's other lads like Greg Bulger and Ryan Brennan, etc. But they're at the kind of near the end of their career. With all due respect, it's something that's very hard to replace. We found it when we lost Chris Shields. Yeah. It probably has taken till now to have someone like that even in a dull game, he'd just get the crowd going, and that's sometimes invaluable. But he seems to love it here. He's really bought into not just the club but the town, and again, lucky to have him.
Yeah, James, I think we'll come to our man of the match choices for tonight. It's funny, we can always see who be popping in and out on the Instagram, and Rowan Vaughan has decided for this moment to join the show. Congratulations on the goals tonight, Rowan. James, who stood out for you tonight? Who's your pick for man of the match?
Look, a lot of standouts. Needless to say, there was a lot of good performances.
Don't get twisted by who's watching you now.
Look, because he's in Rowan, I think he knows he played well. But for me, I have to go Owen Kenny, just because. Look, we probably won at a canter, but there was nervous moments in there, and again, I think. You're 1-0 down. He steps up with an assist, and then his 2 goals. Then after that, effectively, I think a 3-1. I don't think Athlone were ever getting another 2. So that for me was the winning of the game, and just his overall. I know he probably won it on a landslide on Monday. I did listen to your show, but to have 3 goal involvements back to back, I think, and again, I think we sometimes take him for granted. Like you forget he's only 19. Like he feels like he's been around a while, which he has been, but his goals tonight, like his first one was his 10th for the club. His second was first double. So like, and again on the night there was a lot of great goals tonight, but I think I on Twitter said it was like Berbatov-esque his one at the end line, just that driving past someone and putting it away. It was like on another night you'd be raving about that, and it does deserve to be. But there's a lot of really good goals tonight. So yeah, for me, I think Owen Kenny deserves it. Again, I was really impressed by a lot of the subs, but I think Owen's contribution more than anyone probably decided the direction of that game.
Yeah, it's the same for myself, and to be fair to Kieran, I think he left them on as long as he could as well to maybe get the hat trick, because he did mention previously that he wanted to give Dean Ebbe that chance when he picked up the second, but unfortunately had to take him off from injury. So at least it shows he has been true of what he says on that as well. But yeah, it's similar for myself. I think whether it's through competition, but definitely through confidence, you could see a rise in his performance. We all joke that you could probably Dervin could be man of the match, every single man of the match, and particularly the nominations he get. Is definitely to get back to backs, probably in a landslide again tonight. The majority of them are for Owen, but there is shouts for Dervin and there is shouts for Owen Vaughan for coming off, and obviously a couple of nods for Norman Garba for just coming off, maybe not man of the match, but just to get back in and in amongst the goal contributions as well. So I think for tonight we will give our man of the match pizza to Tony Martin. So yeah, he just said rinse and repeat. Kenny was so good on Monday, and tonight he was totally unplayable. So, and there you go, he's back to back on his nominations also on that. So congratulations, Tony. There is a 15-inch pizza from Tony's Pizzeria on us here at the pod. And James will hand deliver that. He actually won't do it. It's not one of the
might be a few slices missing.
Yeah, exactly. James, we talked about it kind of earlier on. We come into this little break now due to our exit in the FAI Cup. This is the one fixture that we just have not been able to get right. The one team that seems to understand the chink in our armor, never allows us to play with the fluidity maybe that we played against other teams. How do you think Kieran and Ken will approach this? Is it more of the same, take the confidence from these games, or do you think will they come up with something specifically just for this game? Because I'm sure, not that it's a monkey on their back, but you do understand, like, to have that one team that was able to get one over you all season long and be undefeated, it's a hell of a trophy for them so far.
Yeah, like, look, as I said, I think it's the perfect game. If you don't get to pick your fixtures, but if you were going to have this break, what better game to come back than Treaty for that very reason? He said tonight, I was speaking to Kieran afterwards, he mentioned addressing him, these guys have hurt us, and he said he created a graphic about how exactly, obviously, we all remember the 2-2 where I think we were winning 2-0 with 4 minutes to go or something, and didn't win, and there's been a few of them this season. So in a way, it could be a good time to get them, because they play Longford tomorrow, so Kieran's going to it, so he's a good chance to look at them. They're on a bit of a sticky patch. They done us a big favour around about a month ago to beat Cove Ramblers 2-1, but they haven't won since then. They were beaten, fair enough, in the cup by Derry, drew 2-2 with Athlone, who we played tonight, lost to Bray, and obviously drew a Kerry on Monday. So they're not really showing the form that they had prior to that, but they do, if you look at the results, they do have a tendency to raise it for the big occasion. to beat Bray at home back in June. Didn't win another game till Cove then, So they seem to like the big night, and there's probably no bigger night in this division, with all due respect, than Dundalk coming to town. So it's not an easy one. I don't think he needs to go massively out of his way. The team is playing with a bit of a swagger right now after this week, and I can't imagine too many changes, because the one thing he does know, if for whatever reason it's not working, he's some real aces up the sleeve, and he's not afraid of that triple sub. And it's one of those that I think just let it happen. I think everyone knows it probably does. It has to annoy the Dundalk players that they haven't beaten them, but it's not even about treaty. It's you're into the every game we sort of win now, it's one less chance for Cove to come back at us, or whoever. So I think it's a case of ticking them off. Just take 3 points. We probably did it with a swagger tonight. There'll be other times where, like a week ago, we were probably fortunate to take all 3 points against UCD. Them missing a penalty late on, but no one will really remember individual performances in a first division campaign. It's just a case of, get the job done, move on. And if you beat Treaty, it's 8 to go, and no matter what Cove do, it's one last game to have to catch you, so that's the way I think they need to look at it. Obviously take one game at a time, but, they're going into it now full of confidence and real competition for places.
Yeah, and of course, UCD are going to Cove that night as well. And I think if we've seen that performance from UCD against us in particular, the last 10 minutes in the bowl, like they really put it up to ourselves. You'd like to think if they can find something in that as well, like another dig for another performance, perhaps we could get a favor out of them. But like I say, it's more probably important that we get our side of the bargain done first and foremost. It feels weird. We're down into like single digit games remaining. This triple fixtures kind of there at the end, like how we've come out of it extremely well, obviously picking up maximum points, really important victories, really convincing victories as well. Could say somewhat maybe a statement victories, considering the run-in that we have now as well. Do you feel that way yourself, that, like I said, I think you mentioned we're probably starting to purr at the right time? And they often talk about, when you're back in Europe and stuff like that, you want to just be peaking around this time to get yourself into a good position for Europe. This seems to be us peaking maybe at the right time for a good run and maybe keep everyone at arm's length on a run into the end of the season.
Yeah, hopefully, because I wouldn't quite class us as full-time, but we're probably the nearest thing to a full-time club in the league. And yet the previous doubleheader weekend, so if you go back to April, we took 2 points from a possible 6. Then into June, we took 1 point from a possible 6. And that's just obviously the Friday, Monday. This time we obviously did 6 and 6, but and obviously followed it up tonight. Like, so even that alone, I think there's never been more than 7 points between us and Cove this season, and never less than 1. So it's still in that sort of melting pot sort of area where,
there's still enough games to cause trouble, isn't there?
You're one bad night away from like it being back to 3, and all of a sudden, if it stays that way, it's gone down to the final game, even if they've to beat us 4-0 to win the league or something. But yeah, you'd just rather not have that scenario, particularly going away from home. But look, the Duck can only look after themselves, and it's a difficult fixture for both looking ahead to the next one, because UCD are one of those teams under night can probably beat anyone, including ourselves. And again, we've had issues with Treaty for whatever reason of being that bit of a bogey team, and like I say, they tend to step up against the better opposition, for want of a term. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting one. But look, we're still on course. Hopefully, we're not get too far ahead of ourselves, but you'd rather be 6 points ahead at this point than 6 points behind like Kovar. So, I mean, I'd rather be in our shoes than theirs.
Yeah, most definitely. Look, like you say, you don't want to start counting any chickens just yet. With 9 games still remain in the season, this could go anyway still, and you're just kind of grateful, like you say, you have the points on the board. You now have that, like you said, probably more important tonight as well was that goal difference, to give you a little bit of lift over. Which, if it was to come down to the last few games or even that last game, you'd like to think that that's a little Brucey bonus to have in your back pocket should we need it. James, we'll probably wrap it up there. Thank you so much for jumping on. Thanks as always to Vinny and the lads in Tony's Pizzeria, to Mark Carlin and everyone in Black Mountain Studios, and of course Donal Green and Dundalk Village as well. See, Martin Mullen came in with a little one there at the end asking for, look, I think he's going to start a petition maybe soon to get there in this man of the match. Every time someone hits a double or something and it steals it away, his man of the match performance. But I'm sure with the 9 games remaining, there'll be definitely a chance for A to finally clinch that man of the match competition winning. James, thank you so much. Always appreciate you popping on, especially after a victory like this. It makes it all so much easier, doesn't it?
Well, anytime I don't be on very often, but every time you send me an invite, I'm always fearful it's going to be the night we lose or something, and you have to maybe put the So anytime we win 6-1, give me a shout, no problem.
Perfect. Well, look, James, appreciate that. We'll be back on again after the 3D match, but until then, come on the town.
My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black and white scarf.